December 24th, 1992, Dayton, Ohio. The folks of Dayton are enjoying the last days before Christmas. Families have gathered, children are keeping an eye out for Santa Claus, but something more sinister was afoot. Bored and looking for something to do, 4 teens and young adults decided they needed drama in their lives. So they went on a killing spree that lasted 2 days, murdering 6 in cold blood just because. This is the story of the Dayton Downtown Posse, hunting for the holidays. Hey y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Potter. Welcome to Hitched to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends in Norway.
Norway.
Yeah, this is an easy one. Velkommen.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Well, wherever you're listening, be sure to like, rate, and review the podcast. You can subscribe to it just about anywhere you can listen to a podcast.
Yep.
You can also join the In-Laws and Outlaws and follow us on social media at Hitched to Homicide True Crime Podcast on Facebook, as well as the H2H In-Laws and Outlaws.
Yes.
And you can find us on Instagram at Hitched2Homicide and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at H2H_podcast.
That's a lot of addresses.
Because Hitched to Homicide is one letter too long for Twitter.
Okay.
Before we start today, I want to talk about a podcast we did back in March of this year, 2023. We covered the Osage Nation murders, the killers of the Flower Moon. And 9 months ago, we even told you that a movie had been filmed. And people, it's out.
Yep, I can't wait to see it too. It looks great.
Directed by Martin Scorsese.
Man.
Killers of the Flower Moon is a masterpiece and is now available on digital. Lily Gladstone alongside Academy Award winners Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a pretty man. And Robert De Niro.
Yep.
Used to be a pretty man, give powerful performances in this riveting film based on a true story. You can buy the epic Western crime saga, Killers of the Flower Moon, on digital. It is rated R. It's from Apple Films and Paramount Pictures. So don't miss your chance to see this powerful story on the screen. And you can always go back and listen to our podcast about it as well.
Yes.
Well, it's Christmas time.
Yep.
And keeping with the request to cover holiday true crime during the holidays.
And I have my studio adorned with all the Christmas decorations.
You do. You do. Yeah. Everybody wanted to hear holiday true crime for the holidays. Yep. That and the fact that we're not letting go of Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah. And this Dayton, that's right up the road from where I grew up.
It's right up the road from where Rob's little childhood happened.
Yeah.
Where the little redheaded boy strummed on his guitar and sang.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you about some really horrible people in Dayton and some horrible things they did Christmas of 1992. Before we get started, let me thank some people who did the heavy lifting for the story. My sources: the Dayton Daily News, the Crime Wire, the Journal News, the Oxygen Channel. There is a book, The Christmas Killings, written by the officials involved in the case. I didn't read it, but I will put a link to it and all the other sources in the show notes.
All right. Well, you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
Well, it's hard to imagine that 4 young adults and teens, 2 of whom had never been in trouble, would kill for sport. But that's exactly what happened Christmas of 1992.
Wow.
Meet Marvalis Keene. Marvalis Matthew Keene is born on July 5th, 1973 in Ohio. His parents are Maynard and Bernice. Okay. If the records online are correct, Marvalis' dad was 28 years older than his mother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God, we're 6 years apart. I thought that was a lot.
Yeah, it's not. Marvalis did have an older brother, Maurice, and when Maurice is 19 years old, he's shot and killed after he broke into a woman's home. Marvalis stood over his brother's casket and vowed he would get revenge.
Oh, wow.
So losing his brother had a really profound effect on Marvalis, and he became depressed, quite depressed. And while he's living in Dayton with his upper middle class family, he attends the local Pentecostal church where he is a part of the choir. I sang in the school choir.
Yeah.
Did you sing in the school choir?
I sure did.
Or were you were the school choir? I don't know.
No, I sang in the school choir.
There really was Rob Podorf in concert at one point, y'all. So just so you know.
Hey, we raised a lot of money.
But after his brother is killed, his mother, Bernice, who at this point is divorced and remarried, sent him to live with his father in Fullerton, California. Okay. She wanted him to get away from everything that happened to his older brother. Now, Fullerton is 30 miles away from Los Angeles' gangs. The Bloods and the Crips at that time were really active, but they weren't active in Fullerton. They were active in Los Angeles, but not in Fullerton, where Marvalis had moved to, where he was living with his dad.
Gotcha.
While in California, he wasn't a part of a gang, and his high school counselor at La Vista High School said he was a really good kid who was never disciplined at school for anything.
Isn't that always the case with criminals?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
He graduates early and starts working for a construction company that removed asbestos. And while he's living with his dad and his stepmom, he didn't party. He didn't even drink. But in August of 1992, after a fallout with his father, he goes back to Dayton and starts hanging out downtown with the Posse.
Gotcha.
He moved into an apartment at Yuma Place after he walked away from his mother's home in Dayton in early December 1992.
All right.
And apparently this fight was over money. Now, Yuma Place is, I read, a flop house. It's across the Great Miami River from downtown Dayton. Marvalis has never been arrested, but he's talking really big around everybody in Dayton now that he's home.
Okay.
He said that his name now was Marvel, and he was a member of the Crips in California. He talked about jail. He carried 3 guns with him. He was kind of living in this make-believe world of his own.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's saying he's a Crip when he was in L.A. or?
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's come back from California, not L.A., Fullerton. I want to make that distinction.
Okay. Because
in Fullerton, the Crips and the Bloods were not active, and that's where he was living.
Gotcha.
But he's come back and he's like, yeah, I'm part of the Crips. And his pastor, Thomas Jones, is later going to say that Marvalis was living in this fantasy gang story in his own head. Quote, he was into it. I'm sure he felt a sense of belonging. Young people fantasize quite a bit. Sometimes they brag about things they don't mean. They want to be accepted by others, end quote.
Yeah.
As 1992 comes to a close, Marvalis had a girlfriend, 16-year-old Laura Taylor. Laura is a runaway who'd been raped as a child by a 17-year-old boy. She didn't have a great upbringing, but she too was active in her church and was never in trouble with the police or at school.
Okay.
Still, she was having sex with people her own age and much older, I believe. I read from 17 to age 42.
Wow.
Marvalis treated her like a queen until he didn't. After she ran away from home, he bought her food, her clothes, and he protected her from a man that she believed was stalking her. But this is going to change because he's going to start to become moody and violent. Quote, he started punching me with his fists and smacking me. He started becoming more irrational, which was scary because I thought he would get rid of me, end quote.
Wow.
Also part of the Downtown Posse in Dayton is 17-year-old DeMarcus Smith and his girlfriend, 20-year-old Heather Matthews.
Okay.
DeMarcus Smith has a criminal history that dates back to 1989, and he has spent some time in juvenile detention and alcohol treatment facilities. DeMarcus started drinking at the age of 5.
Whoa.
And he sold crack cocaine, but he did not use it.
Wow. You know what I was doing at the age of 5?
You were playing a little ukulele and singing your heart out.
And eating dirt. I mean, come on. Drinking at 5?
No, you were riding like your little, he had this little tiny motorcycle. He was this little bitty guy riding this little tiny motorcycle. Things that we would never allow our children to do.
True. This is true.
Without a helmet, I've seen the videos. I'm just saying it. I'm just telling you now.
It's a wonder I'm even walking.
Exactly. But so he sells crack cocaine. He doesn't use it. And DeMarcus only reads at a 3rd grade level. And he has, according to his attorneys later, a neurological problem. Now, Heather Matthews, age 20, had a storied past. She had allowed her friends into her mother's home a few years prior, where they stole most of the Christmas presents one Thanksgiving.
Wow.
She and her friends stole her family's VCR. She and her friends broke into her mom's house 3 different times.
Oh, my God.
Heather was a chronic truant and runaway.
Wow.
She was a high school dropout. And just 3 months prior to December of 1992, she was released early from the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville after serving 6 months of a 1-year sentence for receiving stolen property.
So she was an overachiever.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Heather was born out of wedlock, and her father didn't really want anything to do with her. Her mother's name is Debbie. And when she's young, she's a sweet child. But by the time she's in middle school and being bused from her house to Roth Middle School, she fell in with the wrong crowd. She was having people over at her house while she was supposed to be babysitting and taking boys up to her room at an early age. She started drinking heavily as a young teen, and her mom sent her to the Dartmouth Residential Center and then to Detmer Hospital in Troy.
I know where that is.
Yeah, that's very close to Sydney, where Rob was born and raised.
Yeah.
Now, Heather liked the attention she got from the boys, and by the time she's in high school, Belmont High School, she's suspended as a sophomore, and they wouldn't let her come back.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't know what she did,
Yeah.
but it had to be something pretty bad for them to say, "You're out, Heather. You're done.
You're not welcome here."
This is when she moved out and started robbing. Her mother never really saw her after that.
Wow.
Now, one doctor actually told Debbie, her mother, that, quote, Heather is a habitual liar who could look you straight in the face and lie her teeth off, end quote.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Her mother said she was a follower, and if someone said, let's jump off this bridge, she'd do it too, which I thought was funny because growing up, my mom was always like, if everybody was going to jump off the bridge, would you just go along with it? Such a mom thing to say.
Yeah, that comes in the mom handbook.
It does come in the mom handbook. Don't be a follower.
Yeah, phrases to say to your kids. And then they have them categorized by age group.
It's true. Very true.
Okay.
I think this one starts at preschool. Don't do what everybody else is doing.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, these 4 are part of a larger group who called themselves the Downtown Posse. It's Christmas 1992 in Dayton, Ohio. These 4 are all hanging out and staying at this apartment at Yuma Place. This is where Marvalis lives. Okay. So maybe they're all shacking up at his place.
Sure.
It's a few days before Christmas, and the posse is panhandling for money. They're drinking. They're doing drugs. And this is when 16-year-old Laura Taylor said to them all, quote, let's get some drama in our lives, end quote.
That can't be good.
And this is where our story starts.
Okay.
Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1992, Laura Taylor has an idea to call someone and offer to have sex for money. Laura tells 34-year-old Joseph Wilkerson, who worked for General Motors, that she and her friend, Heather Matthews, will come over and have sex with him. An orgy. They think he's going to pay them, and he actually agrees to this, according to them.
Okay.
They all meet up at Joseph's house at 3321 Prescott Avenue. It's the early morning hours, so it's kind of overnight from the 23rd into the 24th.
Sure.
Joe lets Heather, Laura, and Marvalis into his home in anticipation of this orgy.
Wow.
All 4 start to undress. Joe takes his clothes off, and Laura starts to take her clothes off. Joe lays on the bed, and all of a sudden, Marvalis pulls out a .25 caliber handgun and points it at Joe.
Oh, man.
He has the girls bind his wrists with electrical cords and tie him to the headboard of his bed. I'm sure at gunpoint, Marvalis has got this gun on him.
Yeah.
and he's fearing for his life.
Talk about shooting a man's horse.
Yeah. Well, that's not even called foreshadowing.
Sorry.
Now, I'm sure Joe is fearing for his life.
Yeah.
They're ransacking his apartment, his house.
Right.
And he tells Marvalis, Joe tells him, there's another gun in the house, a .32 double-barreled Derringer, and he keeps it in the garage.
Oh, wow.
And then he says to them, quote, don't shoot me, end quote.
Wow.
I bet.
Yeah. I'd probably say that too.
So I don't know, because this is according to the kids. I don't know if he really said, yeah, I've got a .32 in the garage, or if when they're just ransacking his place, they actually found it.
Right.
So who knows?
Sure.
But while Joe is tied up, Laura and Heather are going through everything looking for valuables, anything they can sell. While they're doing this, the two girls hear a shot ring out in the bedroom. When they get into the bedroom, Marvalis has shot Joe in the chest with his own gun, killing him.
Jeez.
He used pillows to help muffle the sound. When the girls see what's happened, Laura tells Marvalis to shoot him again.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And when the Derringer misfires, Laura takes Marvalis's gun, the .25 from him, and puts it to Joe's head, firing a shot.
Wow.
Later, police will say that Laura was, quote, tough as nails, end quote, and that she was the intellectual leader of the group.
Man.
These three take whatever they want out of this house. They got a microwave, a small television set, a phone, a curling iron, and a blow dryer. Then they drive away in Joe's car, a Pontiac Grand Prix.
Okay.
They didn't have the keys, but Heather was experienced in hot wiring cars.
What?
So that's exactly what she does.
Jeez.
So after they kill Joe and steal his stuff and his car, they're driving around in this car while they hunt for more victims. That evening around 10 p.m., 18-year-old Danita Gillette is standing at a payphone at 517 Neal Avenue in Dayton. In the car is now Marvalis, Laura, Heather, and DeMarcus. They've picked him up.
Okay.
They see Nita talking on the phone. Danita, that her family called her Nita.
Okay.
Danita Danielle Gillette, goes by Nita, is born on July 6, 1974. She's an 18-year-old who was just one credit shy from John H. Patterson Cooperative High School in Dayton, where she majored in drafting. She works at a Rally's restaurant on Salem Avenue and is the mother to a little 2-year-old girl named Dominique.
Okay.
Danita's parents are Peter and Helen, and she is the youngest of 9 siblings.
Wow.
She's the youngest of 9.
Okay.
And this is a wonderful family. Like, her older sister is a doctor. She's actually living with her brother Daryl. This was a very loving, caring family, all 9 of them.
Okay.
And Nita was a very loving and caring person. She didn't drink. She didn't do drugs. She didn't run the streets. She was a wonderful mother to her little girl. On Christmas Eve, she had to work, but she was going to her mom's house where all of her brothers and sisters were gathering. At 10 o'clock, she's at a payphone on Neal Street. She's wearing a coat made of flannel, like a heavy flannel coat.
Sure.
And Fila tennis shoes. Now, according to DeMarcus, they wanted money. Quote, we just walked by and I said, let's rob her, see if she got some money, end quote.
Got it.
DeMarcus and Marvalis walk up to her at the payphone booth, and DeMarcus says, quote, take off those shoes and that flannel, bitch, end quote.
Jeez.
Then Marvalis said, quote, Merry Christmas, bitch, end quote. DeMarcus then shot Nita. He described it as, quote, pow, 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 and then shot one more time.
Jeez.
They stole her shoes and her coat, and then they fired 9 shots into the phone booth. While she begged for her life, she would be hit by 5 of those shots.
Wow.
Police will find her body on the ground by the phone booth. The pavement is covered in blood, and left behind are .25 caliber Blazer aluminum bullet shell casing. That's called foreshadowing.
Uh-oh. Hang on. Let me do it. Ready?
Uh-huh. Exactly. Now, Blazer aluminum bullets are used for target practice by law enforcement.
No, wow.
It's really cheap ammo. And people don't use them in guns because apparently these bullets jam and malfunction in semi-automatic guns.
Okay.
It's not reliable ammunition, but it's good and it's cheap to use for target practice.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that it won't kill somebody, because it will.
Yeah.
And it does.
Right.
DeMarcus and Marvalis take off with Nita's shoes and her coat. They also take her backpack, and inside was all the money that Nita had on her.
Oh, no.
50 cents.
Jeez.
She was killed for her coat, her shoes, and 50 cents.
Wow.
Nita doesn't die right away, but she is DOA at the hospital. She dies on the way to the hospital. That night, around 10 p.m., it's still Christmas Eve. When they make it back to Yuma Place after murdering Nita, they decide before Christmas Eve is over, they will hunt and kill one more person. Their next target is Heather Matthews' ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Wright. He's also part of this Dayton Downtown Posse.
Okay.
Also with the Downtown Posse that night are Wendy Cottrell and Marvin Washington. Wendy has run away from her home in Harrison Township and was living at the Yuma Place house with Heather and Heather's ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Wright.
Okay.
Jeffrey and DeMarcus get in an argument, and DeMarcus shoots Jeffrey, putting 4 bullets into Jeffrey's legs.
Wow.
He runs to a neighbor's house and then goes to the hospital and is treated. But it's not a mortal wound. None of these 4 wounds are mortal.
Right.
And Heather and Laura are going to discuss after this kerfuffle that they should go to the hospital and, quote, finish him off, end quote.
Gee whiz.
Wendy and Marvin aren't a part of the shooting or Jeffrey or any of the murders, but the 4, DeMarcus, Heather, Marvalis, and Laura, aren't hiding what they've done.
Okay.
They've told these people.
They're proud of it.
They're very proud of it.
Wow.
They go back to the home of Joe Wilkerson. He's dead. They've got his car. They know there's nobody there. He's dead in his bedroom, and the 4 of them hole up in his home. They eat his food, sleep there, and they open the presents that Joseph was supposed to take to his family in Michigan for Christmas.
Jeez.
So they have a car. They have a place to stay with food. This is their base of operation. Then on Christmas morning, they go hunting once more. They've already shot but didn't kill Heather's ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey. So now they're going after Laura's ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old Richmond Maddox.
Okay.
Richmond Thornton Maddox, he goes by Ricky, is born on December 27th, 1972. He's just a couple days away from his birthday. On Christmas Day, Laura goes to Ricky's house several times, knocking on the door and wanting to see him. His family confirms this later. Finally, he comes to the door and goes with her. He gets into his car. Laura gets into his car with him in the passenger seat. She's told him, let's go to a hotel. Let's have sex.
Okay.
And when she got him there, she had planned on stealing his money. But trailing behind them in this Pontiac Grand Prix are Heather, Marvalis, and DeMarcus.
Okay.
As they're driving, Ricky gets wise to the fact that he's being followed.
Sure.
He gets suspicious, and he guns his own car speeding up. And this is when Laura puts this Derringer gun, the one that they've taken from Joe's house.
Right.
She jams it into Ricky's right temple while Ricky is driving. She pulls the trigger while he's driving and kills Ricky while the car is moving.
Good grief.
Laura bails out of the car before it crashes into a tree on Benton Avenue.
Wow.
Then she jumps into the car with the others. She's covered in blood, and she says, quote, I killed him, end quote. DeMarcus and Marvalis get out of their car to check and make sure Ricky is dead. Laura tells Heather that when she shot Ricky in the head, he said one word to her. Laura, her name.
Wow.
Now, witnesses see a young woman jump out of this moving car before the car hits a tree.
Right.
And this happens just a few miles from where Nita is killed in the payphone booth.
Okay.
It's winter. The windows are up. He's shot not from the outside of the car, but from the inside of the car and into the head. So they know that the person who shot him was riding shotgun with him.
Right.
No shell casings are found at the scene.
Okay.
Now, police go to Ricky's family. They've got to tell the family that Ricky's dead.
Sure.
And they talk to his family, they talk to his friends, and police are told that Ricky didn't have enemies, but he didn't have a lot of friends either.
Okay.
But he did have an ex-girlfriend, Laura Taylor, a sweet, petite teenage girl. So they go to Laura's house to talk to her. But Laura's family doesn't know where Laura is because Laura is missing, and her family wants her to be found.
Right.
So police are thinking, oh gosh, Laura may also be a victim.
Right.
So they're actually thinking at this point, the girl who killed him might be a victim. They're worried about her safety, and she's actually the murderer.
Oh, wow.
Meanwhile, a medical examiner is looking at Ricky. A bullet is retrieved. It's a .32 caliber used in a revolver or a Derringer. This is a different gun than Nita's death. So police are thinking that the murders aren't connected. And remember, they don't know about Joe,
Right.
who's dead and tied up in his bed in his home.
Right.
These four drive around the Dayton area on Christmas night, sleeping in one of their stolen cars in an apartment parking lot. They meet up with more members of the Downtown Posse, and they start to brag a little bit more about what has happened.
Jeez.
Another member of the posse who hears about their murders is 18-year-old Nicholas Woodson.
Okay.
They're bragging about all the people that they killed, who they've been killing, how they've been doing it around town. They're really proud of it.
Jeez.
They describe exactly how they murdered, who they murdered, everything about it to Nicholas. The phone booth and Nita, the car and Ricky Maddox. And Nicholas isn't involved, but the group, Heather, Laura, DeMarcus, and Marvalis, are afraid now that they've told everybody that people are going to start, quote, snitching, end quote.
Wow. So let me guess. They're thinking they've got to kill everybody?
You got it.
Wow.
Ding, ding, ding.
Jeez.
Before daylight on December 26th, Heather drove to a BP station on Free Pike and Salem Avenue. DeMarcus and Marvalis get out of the car, both with guns, one with a .25 caliber, the other with the stolen Derringer. There's a woman putting air in the tires of her black Dodge Shadow. They point their guns at her and said, quote, "You will die today,"
Jeez.
end quote.
Man.
She drops this air hose and yeets out of there. She runs.
Yeah.
She runs from this car. She gets away without being shot.
Wow.
They take her Dodge Shadow. They swap the plates with that car, and they leave this woman behind. They swap the plates for the Grand Prix.
Sure.
Now, this woman calls police and says, "I've been carjacked."
Yeah.
And they get the plates on this car, and they put out an APB on it. Now, the foursome, Marvalis, Laura, Heather, and DeMarcus, regroup that morning, and they end up at the Shot Stop Mini Market at 1201 5th Street.
Okay.
Laura goes into the store. She's scouting it out. Then she comes back out, and DeMarcus and Marvalis and Laura go back in the mini market again. They hold up the clerk. Her name is Sarah Abraham.
Okay.
Sarah is a mother of three. She's working behind the counter at the mini market. It's a family-owned store. They ask her to empty the register, and she does. $44. That's all that's in the register.
Okay.
She gives him the money. And then Marvalis shot her twice in the head, even though she cooperated.
Wow.
A witness, Jones Pettis, is also shot in the stomach and the hand. He will survive. But also in the store is 71-year-old Jimmy Thompson, who sometimes worked in the store. And he's going to tell police that a young woman came into the store first. She made a purchase, was 5 cents short, so he gave her a nickel. And as she walked out, 2 men came in and demanded money. And while Marvalis and DeMarcus are shooting up the store, Jimmy falls to the ground and pretends to be dead. Pretty smart move, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
71-year-old Jimmy's got the brains.
He does.
Yeah, street smart.
Sarah would die a few days later in the hospital. She was loved by the community where she worked and the star of her family. They owned many markets in the city.
Wow.
The Abrahams were a hardworking family who had actually immigrated from Ethiopia. Now, when police go through this crime scene, they find the same shell casings, the aluminum 25s, and they also find casings from the 32 Derringer.
Okay.
And as detectives are working the scene at the mini market, they hear about this carjacking. And it's the same description of the two men that they're getting from the 71-year-old guy at the mini market.
Ah, okay.
And they also fired their guns at her, even though they missed. But the shell casings remained, and now they know their killers are driving a 1989 black four-door Dodge Shadow.
And now they know that the guns are associated with each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So they're looking for license plate FMB 186 Ohio.
Okay.
And this black Dodge Shadow is not a common car. Sergeant John Huber goes looking for the car.
Okay.
And he drives to places where he knows that ne'er-do-wells are hanging out.
Yeah.
And as he's driving and looking down Kumler Avenue, he sees a black Dodge Shadow.
There it is.
4 doors. But the plates aren't FMB 186. So Sergeant Huber runs the plates and they come back to Joseph Wilkerson and a Pontiac Grand Prix.
Ah.
They get the address that's associated with the plates, and a police car immediately goes over there to check it out. Meanwhile, because Dayton residents are starting to freak out and wonder who might be getting shot next, police talk to the media and they set up a tip line. And one comes in. It's Nicholas Woodson.
Ooh.
He tells them about the Downtown Posse. This posse of young adults, high school dropouts, runaways, people living on the street. He tells about the 4 who were bragging, who they killed and how. And Nicholas had information that only the killer would know.
Right.
He tells police that they're afraid people are going to start snitching. And he's actually snitching.
Yeah.
And he's afraid for his life. He tells police the 4 people you're looking for are DeMarcus Smith, Heather Matthews, Marvalis Keene, and Laura Taylor.
Wow.
And police are like, hold the phone. You mean Laura Taylor isn't missing like her family says?
Yeah.
She's one of the killers.
Wow.
They interview Nicholas and he tells police what happened to Ricky Maddox on Christmas night.
Okay.
He says that Laura was limping and she was talking about how she had shot him in the head. Quote, I shot him in the head and the car didn't stop. That's why I jumped out. End quote.
Jeez.
He also tells police she's got a cut on her hand because of this. He says, quote, man, y'all shouldn't have did that, end quote. Police ask what their response was to him saying that, and he tells police, quote, they started laughing and stuff. They thought it was funny, end quote.
Jeez.
So Nicholas is saying, y'all shouldn't have done this. Why did you kill these people? Why'd you kill Ricky?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done that.
Heartless.
Why did you do it? And they're laughing about it.
Man.
Meanwhile, they've got stolen plates on this Shadow that came back to Joe Wilkerson. They show up at his house. They knock on his door. There's no answer, but they can smell something coming from inside the house.
Ugh.
They push open the door and see the house has been ransacked. They go into the bedroom and find 34-year-old Joe tied to the bed. He's obviously dead.
Sure.
He'd been shot once in the head and once in the chest. By the bedside is the same unusual aluminum shell casings. The wallet with his name proves that he is Joe Wilkerson,
right.
And they can tell he's been dead for a few days.
Man.
So now the police have another dead body, bringing their total to 4. This has happened over 2 days.
Jeez.
Now, after they get their $44 and murder Sarah Abraham, they buy some beer and wine. And the 4 of them, Laura, Heather, DeMarcus, and Marvalis, start talking about which of their friends might turn them in. Would it be Nicholas Woodson? How about Laura's 16-year-old friend, Wendy Cottrell, and her boyfriend, Marvin Washington? And for some reason, they decide that's who it's going to be. It's these 2 that are going to snitch to the police.
Wow.
So they pick up Marvin and Wendy. It's the night of December 26th. They've got their beer, their wine with them. They're driving, and Marvalis says that he's got to go to the bathroom. He needs to pee. So he drives to a field at 1654 Richley Drive. They pull over, stop the car. DeMarcus and Marvalis pull their guns at the same time, each holding the barrel against Wendy and Marvin. They march these 2 over to a pile of dirt. Marvalis puts his gun in Wendy's mouth, and she is screaming and crying, saying, quote, "I ain't a snitch. I ain't a snitch," end quote.
Jeez.
Marvalis shoots Wendy and DeMarcus shoots Marvin. I did read that it was DeMarcus who decided that these two had talked and ultimately needed to die.
Wow.
Then Heather takes a necklace off of Wendy and puts it around Marvalis's neck.
Ugh.
And they stole Wendy's shoes.
God.
They drove to another friend's house where they'd left Joe's car as well as the Dodge Shadow. They're still discussing amongst them who needed to die, who else needed to be silenced.
Man.
So now these four, Laura, Heather, DeMarcus, and Marvalis, are inside this house on Kumler Avenue, and police are watching that Dodge Shadow. Sergeant Hubert stakes out this car for 3 hours, and then he sees 3 people making their way to the car. Now, he has no idea if they're behind all of these murders, one of the murders. He doesn't know.
Right.
But he sees 3 of them making their way to the car. He radios it in and says, there are people in it. They're on the move. So stopping this car is like asking to be shot, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
And Sergeant Huber puts on his lights and sirens and he pulls them over. And they actually pull over. He confronts the group. It's Marvalis and Laura shouts, quote, shoot him now, end quote.
Jeez.
Sergeant Huber keeps them at gunpoint in the car until backup arrives. Police take Marvalis Keene, 19 years old, and Laura Taylor, 16 years old, into custody. But one man got away, DeMarcus Smith. He jumped out of the car and he ran.
Okay.
When they arrest Marvalis, he's wearing Danita's flannel coat.
Wow.
They take them into custody and start going through the Dodge Shadow and find 2 guns. The .25 with the aluminum shell casings, and a .32 Derringer, the same one used to kill Richmond Maddox,
Right.
Ricky Maddox.
Yep.
They go back to the house where the car was, looking for the final 2, DeMarcus and Heather.
Mm-hmm.
They were both at this house, and both had been named by Nicholas Woodson as part of the Downtown Posse.
Right.
And when police pick them up, they see that DeMarcus Smith is wearing Nita Galette's Fila tennis shoes.
Jeez.
So now they have the 4 of them in custody, Laura, Heather, DeMarcus, and Marvalis. They separate the 4 of them, and they start asking questions. They're looking for a confession and for somebody to break.
Right.
So who do you think they go to first?
Laura.
They go to Laura. She's the youngest.
Yeah.
They go to Laura Taylor first. They're thinking she's 16 years old. She's going to break. She doesn't say a word. And when they asked if she wanted to use the restroom, she stood up, peed on the floor, and then sat back down.
Oh, my God. That's hardcore.
It is.
Wow.
But the other 3 members of the posse are talking. And they explain how their spree began just before dawn on Christmas morning. It's at this time the police are finally knitting together all of these shootings and all of these murders. And the people who are responsible are these 4 kids or young adults. Now, 3 of the 4 talked. Laura Taylor did not. The only person she spoke with was the minister from her church. She tells him everything.
Really?
And she also tells him, look, there are 2 more dead that they don't even know about.
Wow.
The minister tells police, she just told me there are 2 more people who are dead. And when they ask if she was upset about it, was she crying when she told you about this? And he said, quote, no, she was bragging, end quote.
Jimmy. Wow.
So the 4 of them were charged with multiple felonies, including capital murder. As juveniles under the law, DeMarcus Smith and Laura Taylor couldn't be given the death penalty. They're 16 and 17 years old.
Right.
But Heather Matthews is 20, and she could get the death penalty.
Right.
And the thing is, Heather was there for all of it, but Heather never pulled a trigger.
Gotcha.
She cuts a deal to testify against the other 3. Heather pleads guilty to aggravated murder, striking a deal a week before she's to be tried on the death penalty charges. She's the oldest of the posse, but she never pulled the trigger. She'll have to serve at least 52 years before she's eligible for parole.
Good.
She was scared. Quote, I'd rather have this than go to trial and get the death penalty. It really hurts. I've been wanting to have babies for a while, end quote.
Wah.
She says that she drove the getaway car, that she blacked out after she watched her friends shoot the first victim.
Yeah.
Joe, the guy they tied up, and how she watched as her friends killed other gang members for knowing too much. She blamed most of the killings on Laura and DeMarcus. Want to guess why?
I don't know.
Well, they're 16 and 17 years old.
Oh, okay.
So she blamed the murders on them.
Yeah.
The two minors.
Yeah.
But DeMarcus Smith and Laura Taylor are both indicted on murder. DeMarcus pled guilty the morning of the trial in the hope that his sentence would be lessened because he admitted to the murders. It wasn't.
Okay. Yeah. He didn't think that through.
Heather Matthews agreed to her deal of 2 counts of aggravated murder, where she's an aider and or an abettor, and 2 consecutive life terms for testifying truthfully for getting on the witness stand.
Okay.
Marvalis was tried as an adult and was given the death penalty.
Wow.
After his arrest, he sent a letter of remorse to his childhood Pentecostal church where he used to sing in the choir. His attorney argued that Marvalis suffered from a form of PTSD related to the death of his older brother.
Okay.
Now, according to Nita's sister, the only time any of them showed any emotion, remember Nita's the one who was killed in the phone booth.
Right.
Her older sister said the only time any of them showed any emotion was when they were sentenced to life in prison or sentenced to death. Laura Taylor got 133 years. DeMarcus got 186 years. Heather got 180 years.
Man.
And Marvalis is given the death penalty.
Wow.
Judge Brown sentenced each of them to the maximum penalty on each and every count consecutively to send a message to the parole board that they should never be released.
Yeah.
On July 21st, 2009, Marvalis Keene died by lethal injection at the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility in Lucasville. Laura Taylor and Heather Matthews are both serving life sentences for murder at the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville.
Okay.
And DeMarcus is serving his life sentence for murder at the Mansfield Correctional Institute. Now, in 2021, Laura Taylor had the opportunity for parole due to new laws that affected life sentences for crimes committed by minors.
Okay.
She was one of like 50 young people that was brought up again for parole.
Okay.
She was denied.
Yay.
And she remains incarcerated at Ohio Reformatory for Women.
Good.
Her next parole eligibility date is in 2026.
Okay.
Quote, "It will never be forgotten by the public because it was so heinous and so sinister, even in light of the things that are going on today," end quote. This is Doyle Burke, a Dayton homicide detective who worked on this case.
Okay.
It started as petty robberies that netted a plaid coat, a pair of sneakers, and $44. And the crimes escalated from that into something so much more because they weren't getting anything. These were all joy killings.
Yeah.
They were doing it just for the fun of it. Quote, "They were just killing people randomly for nothing, literally nothing. There was not even a motive in these cases. It was just for fun. They were like a shark. Once they tasted blood, they couldn't stop," end quote.
Wow.
So crazy story. All happened over the period of 2 days, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And 6 people died because of it.
Yeah.
And it was a bunch of kids who did this.
It's crazy.
But that is the story of the Dayton Downtown Posse who went hunting for the holidays. And that's all I have to say about that. Hey, Hitch to Homicide listeners, the wait is over. If you're a reader or a fan of my Sex and Lies series, Book 10, Sex, Lies, and Rock and Roll is now available on Amazon. With a successful tour and 2 years of sobriety under his belt, rock star Noah Hart is ready to put his secrets and the past behind him. That is, until his former bandmates and business partners are murdered one by one, and suddenly he becomes the prime suspect. When FBI agent Louisa Hathaway is assigned to the case, no one, including her partner, is aware she carries her own secrets, including an undeniable infatuation with rock and roll's bad boy, Noah Hart. As the body count rises, Agent Hathaway is torn between unraveling the truth and falling for the man who might be the killer. Don't miss this new book, Sex, Lies, and Rock and Roll by me, Chris Calvert. Only on Amazon. Rock and roll will never die, but it might kill you.
It's hard to believe. I mean, these were kids.
Kids.
Children.
Children. Runaways. Yeah. Kids.
I mean, listen, kids run away, that the stuff. But to end up as mass murderers?
Now, DeMarcus had a record, and Heather had a record.
Right.
But Marvalis and Laura were active in their church.
Wow.
They were good students when they were in school.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened? What happened?
Yeah.
What clicked in them? I mean, they said that it was because of Marvalis' brother being shot, but he was committing a robbery when he got shot. Yeah. So, happy holidays.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just glad that they're put away for good.
They are. Well, and one of them's gone.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's move away from that and something a little bit lighter with Bless Your Heart. All right, here's the number one.
Okay.
And I'm calling this one, beep, beep, beep. Hello, 911. Where are you guys? All right. Post Falls, Idaho. A northern Idaho man called police 12 times regarding his $30 bar tab following a night of drinking.
12 times?
Yes. Officers gave Philip Poisonay, and pardon me if I messed this name up because it's a very strange spelling. Officers gave Philip Poisonay a courtesy ride home after he was kicked out of Club Tequila just after 1 a.m., according to Post Falls Police Captain Pat Knight.
It's a great name for a bar, Club Tequila.
That's it. Quote, according to the officers, he had been intoxicated, so they gave him a ride home, Knight said. Shortly after he got a ride home, we started receiving these 911 calls from him. Poisonay initially called 911 to request that officers return to his home to discuss his bar tab. He was allegedly worried about being overcharged for the 10 beers he ordered.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Minutes later, he called 911 again, this time asking, where are they?
They're like, dude, go to sleep.
Yeah. Quote, we were responding to a prowler call, and while we were on the prowler call, he's calling 911, making sure he's not overcharged, Knight said. Poisonay called 911 twice, hung up. Then he called 911 and made emergency responders listen to the radio at least 3 times, police said. And this is the best part. He also told a dispatcher that she's, quote, just like his ex-wife.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Honey, you're just like my ex-wife.
Poisonay may face a fine up to $1,000 a year in jail or both for misusing 911.
You know what, Philip? They were nice enough to give your butt a ride home.
Yeah.
Figure out your bar tab the next day. I know plenty of people who have left their credit card or their debit card behind the bar while they're running a tab and forget about it and like walk out the door because they've had too much to drink. They hold it for you. I'm not speaking from experience, but they'll keep it for you and you can go back and pick it up.
Yeah.
Fill up.
That's really drunk.
Well, if you're drunk enough that the police are taking you home
exactly.
and you're not getting public intoxication charges,
right.
Those are some nice police officers.
They are. All right. Number 2. Where's my phone?
Oh, my gosh. Is this about me?
Yeah. If it was me, it'd be, where's my keys? Anyway.
Yes, it would.
A woman was arrested for robbery after she returned to the store minutes after sticking it up to retrieve a cell phone that she had dropped. Yeah. The woman was part of a duo who decided to rob a California nail supply store, initially making it out with around $600 worth of merchandise.
Wow.
Yeah. Then one of the ladies decided to come back in the store minutes after, demanding her phone. She had apparently dropped it during the getaway. Yeah. After retrieving her phone, the 2 suspects, who police identified to Fox News Digital as Kadriana Hall, 24, and Serendii Banks, 19, left the scene in a black vehicle.
Okay.
The police confirmed that the suspect had left her phone at the scene of the crime. Here we go. And it contained her ID, credit cards, and other personal items.
Her social security number,
yeah, exactly.
her address.
So it made it pretty easy to track these sloppy thieves down. Now, when they found them, they were sitting outside their home, still in the car an hour later when police got in touch with them. Reports say that all of the merchandise was in plain sight as the two women were arrested and taken to jail.
Do you know what this reminds me of, Rob?
What?
The hit and run. Rob and I were in a hit and run one time, hit the car.
Yeah.
And the kids, after they hit us at a very high speed while we're sitting at a red light, the wheels come off of this car and they all four doors open and they go running in all different directions.
It was like rats scurrying off.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then one of them came back. One came back for her cell phone. And I remember we were just so disoriented. It was like, wait a minute, one of them's back. And she was gone again in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
but that's what it made me think of.
Our car was completely demolished.
Yeah. And when the police came and the ambulance came, I just remember the police officer looked at Rob's car and went, wow, that was a nice car. Was a nice car.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 3, the Hamburglar.
Oh, you know I love some McDonald's French fries and a good McDonald's Diet Coke.
This is a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
All right. A dopey thief led his victim straight to his front door after allegedly stealing 7 legs of Iberico ham and leaving a trail of fat as he dragged them along the ground.
Legs of lamb?
No, ham.
Oh.
No, legs of ham.
Oh. I'm sorry. I thought you said leg of lamb.
No, ham. Domingo Infante, 34, arrived at his tapas bar on Monday to find the door forced open, and that's tapas, not topless. And the cash till gone, along with a TV and the cured meat that had been hanging above the bar.
How many?
7. Yeah.
Okay.
The astonished
hams, not legs of lambs.
Yeah. Hams.
Okay.
The astonished Spaniards then made a second call to cops to say they had caught the suspect culprit.
Okay.
All right. Officers rushed to get the search warrant after being refused entry into the rented property and found 2 of the legs of ham inside, along with an empty cash till and TV.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the restaurant owner, Domingo, said even then they thought the fat trail from the ham would lead to a car parked, in the parking lot. But it actually went to a house in the street behind us.
And now I'm just putting the Hamburglar part together.
Exactly. There were traces of fat everywhere, on the pavement, outside the property, the stairs, and even the front door.
There's ham fat?
Yes, all over the place. The suspect lived there with his parents, who wouldn't let the police in at first, but they got a search warrant within 20 minutes and found the cured meat.
We're coming in for the hams.
We are. And they went inside along with the cash till and TV.
They went ham on the guys with the hams.
Yeah. Each leg was worth around 120 pounds. So this is obviously over in England.
Oh, okay.
And the till, which had, around 500 pounds, it was empty.
Of course it was.
Sure. But every cloud has its silver lining.
Yes.
And it looks like we'll be getting some of what was taken back thanks to my wife and mother-in-law, he said.
Aww.
Yeah. The cured meat has now been taken to the police station along with the other valuables while detectives search for the missing 5 legs, thought to be in the hands of the alleged thief accomplices. So there you go. There's your bless your hearts. I like that one.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Follow the fat.
Yep, exactly. Yep. On the sidewalk, on the stairs, on the front door.
Oh, I'll never look at ham the same way.
I think the funny image would be somebody driving along and looking on the sidewalk and seeing this guy dragging these hams.
They're still missing.
Yeah.
Their hams out there.
Oh, my God.
Being held up somewhere at gunpoint.
So there's your Hamburglar.
Oh, my gosh. Well, if you have a bless your heart, I'll never eat ham again. If you have a bless your heart or you know somebody's heart who needs blessing, Go to hitchtohomicide.com where there's a pull-down menu.
Yep.
And you can also suggest a case. We're going to get to a bunch of those in 2024. We're gearing up for it.
Bring it on.
That's my amazing husband out there.
And that's my beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitch to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.